Welcome back, Radio Row here in Washington, D.C., the Military Women's Memorial on the campus of Arlington National. Nordo here, John Kriesel with me, and very pleased. I got to sit up a little bit straighter here. The Honorable Christine Wormuth, Secretary of the Army. Thank you so much for giving us time today, Christine.
Great to be here, Nordo. Thanks for having me.
I see there's a method to it with the color scheme. It is indeed a Go Army Beat Navy affair this weekend, isn't it?
Yes, I've got to represent, so bringing out the gold sequins.
Is it a house divided? I believe there's Navy representation in the Wormuth household as well, is there not?
It is true that my husband, Drew, is a retired Navy officer, but as he put it, he didn't go to the boat school, so he's happy to cheer for Army. Plus, he knows he'd be sleeping on the couch if he didn't.
Awesome. Well, heck of a week, heck of a season they've had. What have you got to do this week? All the festivities around town, the fact that it's in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. What's this week been like?
It's been busy. There's been a lot going on. We had a fantastic tailgate down on Capitol Hill with Congress. We're having a tailgate at General George's house tonight. There's been stuff down on the mall. We had the rabble-rousers, the West Point cheerleaders, and the band come through the Pentagon. There might have been a little decorating of the CNO and the SecNav's offices that happened really early this morning. So it's been a busy week.
The title of Secretary of the Army, it feels like that's a massive umbrella, if I can speak as an outsider. So what goes into that in terms of, because this week, as fun as it's going to be, back to the office Monday, or maybe even still working while enjoying, what is life of Secretary of the Navy? What are some of your overlying duties that support the Army?
Well, as Secretary of the Army, I'm basically like the CEO of the Army. That's how I would think about it. I am responsible for organizing, manning, training, and equipping in the Army. We have almost 1 million people. Our annual budget is $186 billion. So while this week is really fun, most weeks I'm very, very busy looking at what weapons we're buying, making sure we're recruiting the way we need to, you name it.
Now, as part of that, I'm fascinated with the evolution of technology. And so whether it is the rifle that a soldier is carrying, I hear about drones and various things. And again, technology, the innovation, what has it been like from your standpoint? I mean, you were an intern, I believe, with the Department of Defense in the mid-'90s. So this has really been, this is culminating 30 years of service and being involved in this industry or in this universe. What has it been like seeing the innovation of technology and then maybe the rat race of staying ahead of it, right? So whatever you might be buying today as you're talking about it, you're also having a meeting and you got a group of nerds somewhere in an office and you're thinking about 10 years from now at the same time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I grew up, I'm a child of the 80s, so I remember the Terminator and Skynet. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And, that was science fiction when I started in the Pentagon, and now it's starting to become reality. As the Sec Army now, we are investing in unmanned platforms. We're investing in robots. We're investing in artificial intelligence. We are investing in high-powered microwaves to basically fry drone swarms. We've learned a ton from what's been happening in Ukraine as the Ukrainians fight the Russians. So the pace of technology is evolving very quickly now, and the Army is really moving quickly to try to make sure that our soldiers have the best new technology to meet those threats.
So I served in the Minnesota Army National Guard from 98 to 2008. Obviously, the heat of a counterinsurgency, and we addressed this a little bit with General Gillen, but what has it been like to really, at points, it must be like trying to steer the Titanic, where you're trying to change from a 20-year war of a counterinsurgency that we really were, that's all we did for 20 years, and now the new threats with China, Iran, the Middle East, sort of focusing on conventional warfare, but having a foot in the counterinsurgency because that could pop up again.
That's right. We don't want to lose all the good lessons that we learned from the 20 years of counterterrorism in Iraq and Afghanistan. We're always going to have to be prepared to fight terrorists, I think. So we're going to keep that expertise in the Army. But this is really a little bit, in my view, back to the future. As I was coming into this building, we were coming out of the Cold War where our big adversary was Russia.
Sure.
Now again, Russia, China, big nation states with powerful, large, high-technology militaries. That's what we're up against. And the Army has done a lot of good work to look at what kinds of capabilities are we going to need to be able to be effective against that kind of a threat. You know, we're investing in air and missile defenses, hypersonic weapons, like I said, robotics, long-range precision fires so that we can fire missiles, you know, at 1,000 miles away. So it's a big change that's happened since when you were probably in Iraq or Afghanistan.
It's been interesting to see for sure. It makes me feel very old.
Same.
How has recruiting been? I know that obviously with there being an end to the global war on terror, we're in sort of a weird spot because there are so many threats, unique threats around the world like we just discussed. How is that affecting recruiting numbers?
Well, as you know, we've had a couple of tough years with recruiting, but we are clawing our way back. This past year, we met our recruiting target. We actually beat it a little bit. We got 50,000 great young Americans to sign up and join the Army, and we got 11,000 young people to go into what we call our delayed entry program. So they're going to start going to basic training this fall and winter. We're feeling so good about our recruiting transformation that the General George and I set a higher target. We're going to try to get 61,000 young people into the Army this year. And I think we're going to do it. But we've got to, we can't take our eye off that ball because all of the headwinds that brought us into the crisis are really still with us. Low unemployment, a lot of kids don't qualify either because of physical fitness or behavior, and a lot of kids just don't know about the Army.
We're speaking with the Honorable Christine Wormuth, Secretary of the Army, Radio Row here. Army-Navy edition 125 tomorrow, and excited for the kickoff. Secretary, bringing it back to the academies in particular, what do you learn? These people are so impressive, and it's a blessing on my part to be a part of it, even again where we are from a radio standpoint. But I'm just curious in terms of how they potentially influence your conversations that you're having here in D.C. at times in terms of the technology, what these cadets will need to ultimately go out there and execute missions and serve and commit. I imagine that there's a lot of intelligence, a lot of wisdom to be gained even from some of these inexperienced cadets as they work their way through West Point.
I'm always so impressed when I talk with our cadets at West Point. They're an amazing group of people. I saw one just here today who not only is she about to go to Stanford and get, a master's degree in data science, she also happens to be our Miss USA and recently competed at the Miss Universe contest.
Unbelievable.
Alma Cooper, a fantastic woman. But we've got cadets who are doing all sorts of amazing high technology science projects at West Point. You know, we have cadets who are becoming Rhodes Scholars. They're just a tremendous bunch of scholar athletes, many of them, and certainly the folks on the field are going to put it all on the field, against the midshipmen tomorrow.
Is there collaboration in what you do in terms of Secretary of the Army, the Navy, of course, Secretary of the Navy, and you talk about the evolution and constantly staying, you got 1 foot here, 1 foot there, hands in a lot of buckets, of course, but ultimately, despite being foes on the field tomorrow, this is family, effectively. And so the things that you're doing and working to accomplish to support the cadets, of course, the Secretary of the NAV is going to be supporting the MIDS, and how that works in collaboration in what you're doing at a more global level.
Yeah, tomorrow, we will be adversaries on the fields of friendly strife, but 364 days a year, we are shoulder to shoulder in the joint force. And I work with Secretary Del Toro and Admiral Lisa Franchetti all the time, particularly on quality of life issues, whether it's for sailors and Marines or for soldiers. We work together on that. We share best practices on recruiting. And we're partnered, actually, with the Navy in developing our long-range hypersonic weapon as well.
Thank you so much for giving us time today. I hope your husband doesn't have to sit on the couch, but it sounds like, 6 of the last 8, Army's got this in the bag, don't they? How about that Bryson Daly? They're ranked. What a season, right? They got this thing tomorrow, don't they? I'm feeling pretty good. This game is singular. I've learned that. But we won the conference. We're 11-1. We're ranked 19th. I'm feeling pretty good. It's Christine Wormuth, Secretary of the Army. It's such a pleasure to talk with you. And John Kriesel, I'm Eric Nordquist, Nordo, here live, Radio Row. It's the 125th edition of Army-Navy game presented by USAA. Stick with us on The Fan.